Welcome to the opening of our exhibition, First Decade Celebration, 10th Anniversary of the Joel and Lila Harnett Print Study Center. The exhibition in the Harnett Museum of Art includes more than 150 works from the collection from 5 centuries of prints, drawings, watercolors, and photographs to mark the first 10 years of this museum dedicated to the study of works on paper. In addition, we have organized 3 related exhibitions of works from the permanent collection of the Harnett Print Study Center. 2 exhibitions are down on this floor in the Harnett Museum. They are Start to Finish, The 7 Stages of Apex by Jerry Bergstein. This is the final print in that series called Apex. And Idea to Image, Process, States, and Proofs from the print collection. In the Harnett Print Study Center just upstairs, we are currently showing Avel de Night, Drawings for Army Life in a Black Regiment. And this is one of his drawings. And there are prints that are around the atrium here in the Maudlin Center. That adds more than 140 additional works to our celebration. And if you add the works on paper from the collection that are on view across campus, you will find 150 works waiting for you as you walk around our campus and visit other buildings at the university. Our Art on Campus program is an important extension of the mission of the University Museums and continues to grow and expand. This is Jennifer Bartlett's Autumn from her 4 Seasons series. We have plenty to celebrate this evening. This is the William Blake print from the Book of Job that was on the invitation. We are here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Harnett Print Study Center, to celebrate the incredible visual wealth of our collection of works on paper here at the University of Richmond, and to celebrate what this museum has accomplished for the cultural enrichment of our students, faculty, and staff, as well as for our greater Richmond community and well beyond. As most of you know, we usually open our new exhibitions by having a lecture or some other program, followed by a reception and a viewing of the exhibition. And usually myself or another member of the museum staff or one of our student workers will introduce the speaker or the event. Well, tonight I have the dubious honor of not only introducing our speaker, but of being that speaker. How did we get to that point? Before I try to answer that and move into my talk, I have a very important introduction to make. I am honored and thrilled that we have Lila Harnett with us tonight. Lila's in the second row, and I'm not seeing people very well, but if you could stand, let people see you. It's wonderful that you are here this evening, and your presence makes our celebration truly complete. For this evening is a tribute to Joel and Lila Harnett. Back to introducing myself. As we were planning the exhibition to mark the first 10 years, the choices for who we should bring to campus ranged from art critics and scholars who have been strong advocates of the singular role that art museums in the academic setting have to offer, to curators that are custodians of major print and drawing collections in public institutions or in academic museums. Although we came up with some excellent choices, it kept coming back to the desire to focus on our museum, our accomplishments, and our community. I was never on the short list, but here I am. Thus, we decided a talk straight from the horse's mouth would be most appropriate, and here I stand. I hope you'll enjoy my brief look at our Harnett Print Study Center. The upside is we didn't have to worry about the speaker's schedule or flight. The downside is I came rushing in at the last moment because I was in the exhibition with Lila. And the other downside is I don't get to sit down and listen to the speaker. I feel a little like Peale in his painting of his museum, an image we often use in the history of museums, and is probably familiar to most of you. It is a self-portrait from 1825. Just as he is inviting us to look around, I'm inviting you in to take a closer look at our university museums. The Joel and Lila Harnett Museum of Art, the Laura Robbins Gallery of Design from Nature, and most important and central tonight, the Harnett Print Study Center. Our three museums are closely intertwined, our missions, our programs, and our resources. But tonight we celebrate the special history, achievement, and future of our Print Study Center. This is Philip Evergood's self-portrait of 1961. In preparing for this talk, my research led me to reading Joyce Carey's book, The Horse's Mouth, since that's the first phrase that came to my mind, and watching the 1958 movie from that book with Alec Guinness. I highly recommend both for your own personal research. The main character is an artist and social rebel, social iconoclast, Gully Jimson, who I think would have gotten along famously with most of the artists whose work we will be seeing tonight. Although we all know the expression from the horse's mouth, this character definitely lets his point of view be known. In the book, he has this to say about the experience of art. 30 seconds of revelation is worth a million years of know-nothing. He doesn't mince words. I hope tonight's talk, and more important, viewing the works in the exhibitions we have on view for you, will provide 30 or at least 10 seconds of the type of revelation for each of you. Let's go back in time a ways. This is Albrecht Dürer's Monstrous Pig of Landseer from 1496, and it is the earliest print in the exhibition. Okay, we're not going to go back that far, but let's go back to 1996, 500 years exactly after this incredible print was made. Charles Johnson, then chair of the Art and Art History Department, and I had a visit from Larry and Marianne Higgs. They were executors of Mr. Higgs' Uncle Webb's print collection, and they wanted to donate these works and wanted to know if we would possibly be interested. You can imagine our great hesitation, what are we getting into, not knowing exactly what Uncle Webb had collected. This quickly turned into extreme excitement, including this Dürer print. The collection included more than 120 prints by Stefano della Bella, the 17th century Italian artist, including this print from 1644 depicting Corpus Christi Day. In addition, it included contemporary prints such as this work by Roy Lichtenstein, or this work by Philip Pearlstein from 1977. Thus, we established the Iweb Surratt Jr. print collection. Dr. Surratt was a humanities professor in the Midwest who had collected these works with very little income, but with a keen mind and incredible passion. Also, the seed of an idea was planted with this gift. At this point, I want to move forward to 2001, but first we need to step back to the 1980s. This print is by George Tooker and is titled Night. Joel Harnett, a 1945 graduate of the University of Richmond, discovered his interest in art when he met his wife, Lila. As a young couple, they shared a love of art and of the collecting of art. Beginning in 1984, the Harnetts were instrumental in bringing to us an exciting series of exhibitions of the work of major contemporary artists, including Philip Pearlstein, George Tooker, Janet Fish, and in 1989, an exhibition of their own collection of American paintings. They shared with each other and they shared with us. There's a poster around campus right now titled Game Changers, a series of lectures by women leaders in various fields who have made a difference and changed the world. When it comes to the visual arts and the university, that describes the Harnetts. They are our game changers. Joel and Lila were advocates for bringing art to our campus, for making this art an important part of the culture for our students and for our community. And most important, they were advocates for strengthening the resources of our museums to continue to do this. Now we're getting to 2001. I mentioned about that seed before with Dr. Surratt, the beginnings of a fantastic print collection for us. That began in 1996. The Maudlin Center had also opened that year, including our new exhibition galleries. By 2001, our collection had continued to grow, and we were organizing and presenting a wide range of exhibitions. The studio program in the art department had grown. We had a new professor in printmaking, Tanya Softage, an expanded printmaking studio, and the continuing involvement of Joel and Lila in the University Museum. In 2001, the Harnetts gave a major contribution to establish the Joel and Lila Harnett Print Study Center. The museum was named to honor and recognize their generosity and guidance in establishing the Harnett Center at the University of Richmond. Also in 2005, our art museum was renamed the Joel and Lila Harnett Museum of Art to further recognize their generosity to the University Museums and to the University of Richmond. We opened the Harnett Print Study Center on September 22nd, 2001, with an exhibition of prints by Reginald Marsh. This is Marsh's The Barker from 1931. This is his Two Girls Walking from 1943. These are both from the portfolio of 30 prints by Reginald Marsh included in the first exhibitions in the Harnett Center, and that were later given to the museum by the Harnetts. The Harnett Center was begun as the only museum in the region dedicated to the study, collection, and exhibition of works on paper. We now have a collection of more than 5,000 works. The museum houses our permanent collection of works on paper, prints, drawings, watercolors, and photographs. Also artist books and other related items such as wood blocks, etching plates, even the antique printing press of J.J. Lanke's, currently on loan to the Book Arts program at the University of Tampa. And in our exhibition, you'll see a work made of felt and canvas, but created as a multiple in the same manner as a print. Today, we remain the only museum in the region dedicated to the study of works on paper, and one of the few museums in the United States that are dedicated to this purpose. At the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, we will soon be joined by the establishment of their Frank Razor Center for the Study of Works on Paper, which will house Mr. Razor's gift of well over 10,000 prints to the museum. We look forward to future collaborations. This is very exciting for both our museum and for our Richmond community. We're becoming a mecca for prints, I think. The Harnett Center encourages the enjoyment and study of works on paper through its exhibition and through the direct use of the collection. Here we see David Hershey, a museum staff member, looking at prints in the center. The museum facilitates the visitor's involvement with original works of art by providing easy access for research of its collection by students, faculty, artists, and scholars, and staff. How to celebrate the first decade, how to give a sense of what we have done during these 10 years, and what might be achieved in the future. The collection is wide-ranging. How do we give a sense of that? We often speak of art museums as being encyclopedic, meaning that they cover all time periods, all cultures, and all types of art and cultural artifacts. To a great extent, this is true as well of museums dedicated to the study of works on paper, but of course limited to the medium, but still trying to cast a wide net in terms of time periods and cultures. Like all museums, we have our strengths and we have our exceptional works. How do we highlight that for our celebration? This is another Della Bella print called a colossal statue from a villa in Florence. I was asking that very question to a visiting artist as I was showing her some of the prints in our collection. She said, "That's easy. Just pick 10 artists and pick 10 works by each of them." I replied that we had considered that, but that would be 100 works, and we wouldn't allow for showing other works. But we decided to give it a try. This watercolor is by Pierre Daura. We selected 10 artists that we felt not only we had strong holdings of their work, but also they gave a sense of the range of our collection, and this truly became the focus of our exhibition. Interestingly, all 10 artists have been the basis for exhibitions over the past 10 years. We have made good use of these resources, but they have only scratched the surface with doing research and presenting them in other ways. This watercolor is also by Daura. This ink drawing is by Daura, drawn in 1930, and is of his wife Louise. He spent half the year in his native Catalan in Spain and half the year here in Virginia. His daughter gave us more than 230 works from his estate, primarily drawings and watercolors. This drawing is by Margaret May Dashiell, and this is another of her works. She lived most of her life in Richmond, and she gave more than 160 works, mostly watercolors, to the university in 1953. And they remained in storage at the Valentine Museum until finally being transferred into our collection in 2003. So they rested for 50 years. It feels like she might have known that the Harnett Print Study Center would be here eventually and just had to wait. This watercolor is titled Street Opera, and it's a Richmond street scene done in 1920. Like Daura and Dashiell, Lankeys spent most of his later creative years in Virginia. We have significant holdings in our collection of J.J. Lankeys, totaling close to 1,000 pieces. And we are just starting to organize a retrospective of his work. This is his 1930 woodcut titled Farmyard. And this is his is a 1926 woodcut of a house along the James River. And you'll see this in the exhibition with a smaller version of the same image, but reversed. So it was an interesting scene for the artist to work on. To quickly touch on the other top 10 in our selection, this Watteau print from the early 1700s is a self-portrait of the artist standing next to his friend. This Watteau etching has a caption that reads, "The most beautiful flowers only last for one morning." We have more than 260 works by the German artist Hans Friedrich Gross, both woodcuts and watercolors. Here's a woodcut from about 1920. And these are two of his landscape watercolors from the 1960s. Very beautiful, small watercolors. Photography is an important area of our collection, and we are fortunate to have more than 130 works from the American photographer Andreas Feininger. He was the son of Lionel Feininger, if you know that artist's work. This is a trapdoor spider from about 1951. Being the University of Richmond, we had to have at least one spider. We have several of his color photographs, and two are on view in the exhibition, including this close-up of the work of a leaf cutter from the 1970s. Through the Warhol Foundation, we received more than 150 Polaroids and black and white photographs from Warhol's estate. This shows Mick Jagger with Mackenzie Phillips and Nicky Weymouth in 1970. And you can guess why I chose this Polaroid. This is a Warhol Polaroid, and we have our national holiday, Halloween, coming. I've mentioned our fabulous Della Bella collection, and this is also from that series about a villa in Florence from the 1640s. As well as Reginald Marsh. Here's a Conte crayon drawing he did in the 1930s, two figure studies. One of Goya's masterpieces, The Sleep of Reason, from 1798. And this was from that gift that established the Iweb Surratt Junior Print Collection. Our top 10 ends with Goya, and we've included 10 prints from the disasters of war in the exhibition. To my mind, to have these 10 prints from his series in our collection is a remarkable way to mark our 10th anniversary, and I'm thrilled that we have them there in the exhibition. As I mentioned, I wanted to include works beyond the top 10, the 10 artists, and we have included many more. We have included works from the Center Street Studio Archives. This is a beautiful etching by the African-American artist John Wilson. From an exhibition we organized of prints and portfolios published by Center Street Studio, located just outside of Boston, and run by artist and master printer Jim Stroud, came the idea of acquiring one of each of the works published by the workshop, along with working proofs, trial proofs, other ephemera that happened during the process of publishing a print, all from these contemporary artists. This way, our collection will have an archive of a print publisher from our own time, and it will grow a little bit each year. This print by Lester Johnson was the first print published by Center Street Studio and was done in 1985. And this is the most recent print they have published, a work by a young artist, Laurel Sparks, that includes glitter and some other hand additions, and it is a Christmas tree, just to give you a hint. But it's a fun piece. Added to this is a selection of other outstanding works from our collection. Once you get started, it's really hard to stop, and the urge to share with you these wonderful works is hard to stop. But the size of the gallery walls kind of made us stop after about 150 pieces. This is a print by Mauricio Lazansky and is a combination of so many printmaking techniques that the list takes up half the label. So I encourage you to look at that. It's one technique after another that he incorporated There are 3 plates involved in the printing of this work. 10 years. 10 years of exhibitions, 10 years of growth of the collection. Some of the numbers I've mentioned kind of give a sense of that growth. 10 years of research, 10 years of Harnett Summer Research Fellows. Each summer, the Harnetts fund a research fellowship for one of our students to work full-time in the museum for 10 weeks. The Harnett Fellow works alongside the museum staff, generally doing research for upcoming projects, curating with a staff member an exhibition, and finally presenting a gallery talk. Elizabeth Schlater, our deputy director, compiled a list of what our first 10 fellows are doing now. It's a fabulous list. I'm so proud of it. It's very impressive to see how their careers are starting to develop. Just to mention 3 of them, Olivia, our first fellow, is now assistant director of the Brady Gallery at George Washington University. Bradley is a development officer at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And Carmen is a curatorial assistant at the Guggenheim Museum. And our most recent fellow, Jackie Clary, sitting over here, and is a senior art history major and helped immensely with tonight's exhibitions. And when we compile that list in a couple of years, we're going to see where her career is leading her. This is a lithograph by Fritz Scholder. 10 years to answer the question, why study prints? Why study works on paper? When we opened the museum 10 years ago, we published a brochure on printmaking techniques. I'm happy to say it's still available, for one, and it's still a very useful document. And I've heard from various teachers that they use it. It has a wonderful kind of short description of various printmaking techniques. On the back page, we pose this question, why study prints? To quote from that answer, prints provide a truly unique opportunity for viewers to learn about artists, especially their working styles, their influences, and environments. Old master prints in particular reveal the hand of the artist, and when successive states or stages of a print are available, the viewer is able to see the process that goes into making an image. Most prints are intended to be produced in editions and to be distributed widely. Hence, their subject matter, especially in the early years of the medium, was focused on religion, educational themes, or current events, all areas ripe for research. It goes on to talk about American printmaking in the early 20th century and about contemporary printmaking. Tonight, I would just add to that answer, there is no better way or more accessible way to look at art, to start to understand it, or to achieve Gully Jimson's 30 seconds of revelation. Yesterday, I received an exhibition catalog from Harvard titled Prints and the Pursuit of Knowledge in Early Modern Europe. It's an incredible book and must be an incredible exhibition. And I think just the title kind of hits home, that it really does point to the importance of studying works on paper in so many different ways. By the way, this is a very large woodcut by the Scottish artist Stephen Campbell. It's 8 feet by 8 feet. We rarely get to bring it out, so we have brought it out for this exhibition. So I hope you'll enjoy seeing that. Why University Museums Matter. That is the title of a short piece by Holland Cotter, art critic for the New York Times, written in February of 2009. In it, he writes, "University museums are unlike other museums. They are not intended to be powerhouse displays of masterworks, though some of them have their share of these. They are, before all else, teaching instruments intended for hands-on use by students and scholars. He goes on to say, the public museum gives us fabulousness. The tucked-away university gallery gives us life, organic, intimate, and fresh as news. I think we do some fabulousness too. I think a great example of what he is suggesting in terms of this intimate and fresh as news idea is our exhibition that just closed, Art Equals Text Equals Art, Works by Contemporary Artists, curated by Elizabeth Schlater and drawn from the private collection of Wynne and Sally Kramarski. And I hope that most of you got to see that exhibition. And it even relates to our current exhibitions, in particular the portfolio of drawings by Avelle de Knight, currently in the Harnett Print Study Center, and our Idea to Image exhibition. They are both great examples of the potential. Further on in his essay, Cotter writes, university art museums are institutions that are, at their best, equal parts classroom, laboratory, entertainment center, and spiritual gym. Think of those four things together. Where good ideas are worked out and bad ideas are worked off. A quick look at our exhibition, Idea to Image, might be a way to think about Cotter's spiritual gym, certainly for artists, but I think for all of us, and is an excellent way to understand the question, why study prints? This is the first state of a 1922 print by Donald McLaughlin. Notice the figure in the foreground. There's even a small figure to the lower right. I'm supposed to be using the pointer, but here's his final state. As the artist worked out his idea, or maybe worked off his idea, the figure in the foreground disappeared. She walked on out. And you can see figures in the middle ground, some pigeons thrown in, shading, and the depth of this just changes tremendously as the artist continued to work on his image. This is Arthur Lewis's first state of his print called The Workshop. You'll notice it's a little hard to figure out what this room is like. It almost looks like a mill room or something like that. But you see two people in the left part that are sitting there, and then in the final state, and this is a 1913 print, in the final state he's made some interesting changes. The people have left the room. And he's introduced a rat in the lower left-hand corner there. And you'll see other changes. It's a lot of fun to be able to compare the two states of this print. This is Peggy Bacon's 1931 drawing of an artist copying a painting in a museum. Peggy Bacon's one of my favorite artists. She has such humor that comes through just in this sketch alone. You can see in the background that she's working on a painting, wonder what that painting might be. Well, we found that painting. We don't have it in the exhibition. Wish we did. Titian painting that she's copying, and this is her final print that she did. So she's gone from this very loose sketch to a very finished print, and also to showing us enough of this painting that we can identify it. She's also titled this Nymph, and it's possibly a self-portrait, so I don't know if she's talking about herself or about the Venus figure in the painting, but it's just a lot of fun to see how the print developed from the sketch. Here's Peggy Bacon again, this time a sketch of a man copying a painting in a museum. Almost looks like he's got his tongue sticking out as he's working, concentrating. Not quite sure what he's working on. This is what he's working on. But is he doing the whole thing? This is a huge painting, Feast of Venus, from the Rubens painting from the 1630s. And again, we don't have this painting in the exhibition. So there you get a sense of what he's working on. If you look at his canvas, you see a satyr, and even on the wall behind him, you see that tiny little corner of the painting that he's copying. And this is called Satyr. And again, I don't know if she's talking about him or... and there's the detail. And again, it was enough information from her drawing in her print that we could identify the actual painting that he was working on. Michael Gallagher's 1940 drawing of an Amish farmer is very complete, not really a sketch at all like Peggy Bacon's. And it might just be a complete drawing that's done for its own sake, but not the case. He took this drawing and he actually traced it onto the lithostone for his final print. When you're in the exhibition, look closely at the drawing and you'll see very heavy tracing lines that he traced them for guidelines for his final lithograph that he did. And again, these are side by side in the exhibition. The print on the left, and unfortunately these are a little small, on the left is from 1736 by William Hogarth. And it's about the poet Alexander Pope. There's a little, above the poet's head is a broadside that deals with a fracas that Pope had gotten into. But 4 years later, Hogarth wanted to include this image as part of a series he was developing on the arts. So he altered the image to fit in with his new series and changed the type at the bottom. It reads The Distressed Poet. He paired that with another print called The Enraged Musician, and he planned on a third print dealing with a painter. And I've always wondered exactly what the phrase would have been if he had actually done that third print. And maybe each of you has an idea, the crazy artist, I don't know what we could come up with. But when you see these side by side, you'll see that the type at the bottom of the print on the left is still slightly visible underneath the new title. The broadside above the poet's head is now it's a map of the gold mines of Peru. And again, not quite sure why he chose that as the new emphasis for the print. The French artist Corot worked on this image in 1845 on the left, meaning that he took the plate, he did his drawing on it, and he tucked it away and it got lost. And 20 years later, found it again and etched the plate and pulled this print. So this is an artist impression. It's very warm, has a wonderful plate tone to it. This is a very small print. You're going to need to see it in the exhibition. And then the print on the right was published in 1875. And you can see it's sharper, it's cleaner, it's easier to publish. These two prints are from the 1500s. Jacob Bink engraved the print on the left in 1555, and prints had a way of getting around, and his fellow artist Franz Brunn copied it 4 years later and in the print on the right. So knowing that the prints get reversed, we know that he pretty much copied, probably with it just sitting in front of him. But he wasn't happy with it, so he made some very slight improvements. You'll see that the fuse on the gun is going up in smoke, and there are a few other little tiny details. But this was a print that sold, and so he didn't want to stray too far from the original print. Once published, images were considered public domain at that time, and copying was a very common practice. We'll end looking at idea to image with a bullet hole. You'll see a bullet hole in the lower left corner of this. This is an 1855 print by the French artist Jean-Francois Millet. The bullet hole is proof that the plate has been canceled, and no more prints can be made from this plate. And it was not canceled until around 1900. Generally, a canceled plate will have scratches through it or a corner cut off of it. But in this case, a bullet hole served the same purpose, and I think it's a fun image to see. This print by Janet Fish was a gift from Joel and Lila Harnett. And actually, if you want to see this, you'll have to go visit the president's office suite and see it in the outer office there. Delight the eye, inspire the mind, and encourage the soul. I saw this phrase somewhere, I copied it down, and I thought it fits so perfectly with our discussion tonight. Delight the eye, inspire the mind, and encourage the soul. So I wanted to find the source for this lofty statement, and as we all do, it's Google time. We're the source of all knowledge. So on the internet I went looking. I found out that it was used to discuss an exhibition by a curator of the Imperial Treasures of Vienna. I found that it was used to advertise a visit to a castle, trying to intrigue you to go there. And I found that it was promoting the work of a contemporary artist. So it must be a good phrase. I don't know where it originated, but we truly hope that your visits to the University Museums, and especially to the Harnett Print Study Center, will delight the mind, delight the eye. I guess we could switch all these around. Delight the eye, inspire the mind, and encourage the soul. Holland Cotter, in his essay on why university museums matter, had this directive to say to universities: the art in your care does not belong to you. Like any legacy, it belongs to the future. Like any legacy, the Harnett Print Study Center belongs to the future. Thank you, Joel and Lila, for this legacy and for this future. Thank you all for coming this evening and being with us.